Is Joyce Meyer's global ministry a Christian empire built on straight talk and relatable faith, facing an unprecedented storm? For decades, she's been a titan in the evangelical world, her influence stretching across continents, her books topping bestseller lists, and her conferences drawing massive crowds. But lately, the whispers have grown louder than the praise. Canceled events, hushed-up controversies, and even government scrutiny have cast a shadow over Joyce Meyer Ministries. Have the foundations of this empire begun to crack? What's really going on behind the scenes? Let's delve into the unfolding story of Joyce Meyer and explore the questions that are now being asked about her ministry and its future. Joyce Meyer's journey is a classic rags-to-riches story, at least in the spiritual sense. From a difficult childhood marked by abuse, she found faith early, claiming a born-again experience at just 9 years old. But it was a profound moment in 1976 during a seemingly ordinary drive to work that she says she truly heard God's call. This wasn't just a subtle nudge, it was, in her words, an undeniable divine directive to become a pastor. Starting small, leading Bible studies in a local cafeteria, she quickly gained traction. Her move to Life Christian Center in Fenton catapulted her into a larger sphere, and her popularity as a Bible teacher soared. A 15-minute radio slot in St. Louis was her first foray into broadcasting, but it was just the beginning. By 1985, she stepped out in faith, resigning as associate pastor to launch her own ministry, Life in the Word. Radio stations across Chicago and Kansas City soon picked up her show. Then, in a pivotal moment in 1993, her husband Dave suggested television. Enjoying Everyday Life was born, and it became her global passport. By the early 2000s, she was commanding multi-million-dollar book deals and being lauded by Time magazine as one of the 25 most influential evangelicals in America. Her annual women's conferences in St. Louis became legendary, drawing women from all walks of life. And through Hand of Hope, her ministry's outreach arm, she extended her reach to the most vulnerable corners of the world, providing aid and spreading her message. Joyce Meyer had built not just a ministry, but a powerful, far-reaching global operation. But this incredible ascent wouldn't be without its turbulence. The empire, seemingly invincible, began showing subtle signs of strain. Like cracks in a once solid foundation, whispers of trouble started to circulate. One of the first noticeable shifts was the dwindling presence of Joyce Meyer at live events. Her conferences, once packed stadiums echoing with her powerful sermons, started to become less frequent, replaced increasingly by pre-recorded messages. The ministry cited resource conservation and logistical challenges, but some wondered if there was more to the story. Then came the cancellation of her television program on KNLC, a St. Louis Christian station. Reverend Larry Rice, who ran the station, didn't mince words, citing Meyer's excessive lifestyle and teachings that allegedly strayed beyond Scripture as the reasons for pulling the plug. This was a public and pointed critique from within the Christian broadcasting world itself. Adding fuel to the fire, rumors began swirling about the ministry's private jet. Accusations of personal use and extravagant spending had long dogged Meyer, but now whispers suggested the jet was grounded and international operations were being downsized. The extensive global outreach, once a hallmark of her ministry, seemed to be contracting. Social media, too, reflected a shift. While still active, the focus seemed to lean heavily towards pre-recorded content and inspirational quotes, a move some interpreted as an attempt to maintain reach while managing constraints. And then there were the observations about Joyce Meyer herself. Observers noted a change in her energy levels, a seeming decrease in her usual vigor during speaking engagements, and longer recovery periods needed between events. Natural aging, perhaps? Or were these signs of deeper pressures hinting at challenges beneath the surface? These were just the visible symptoms. Deeper and more serious storms were brewing on the financial and legal fronts. The whispers turned into a roar when Joyce Meyer Ministries found itself directly in the crosshairs of a U.S. Senate investigation. From 2007 to 2011, Senator Chuck Grassley spearheaded a probe into the financial dealings of several televangelist ministries, and Joyce Meyer's was squarely in the spotlight. The investigation was triggered in part by alarming reports of lavish spending funded by ministry donations. The details that emerged were truly eye-popping: a $43,000 commode table, a staggering $10 million Gulfstream jet, a $2 million mansion for Joyce herself, and additional homes for her 4 children, and it didn't stop there. Luxury cars, including a $17,000 Mercedes for her husband and a $2 million ministry headquarters lavishly furnished with artwork and decor, reportedly costing $5.7 million. The public outcry was immense. Watchdog groups clamored for an IRS investigation. How could a ministry built on donations intended for charitable work justify such opulence? In response to the intense scrutiny, Joyce Meyer Ministries attempted damage control. Meyer publicly reduced her salary to $250,000 annually and restructured her financial arrangements related to book sales. The organization defended its fiscal practices, and Meyer herself famously declared, "There's no need for us to apologize for being blessed." But the questions lingered. Could these adjustments truly address the scale of the financial concerns? Managing a global ministry of this size is undoubtedly expensive, with insurance premiums alone reaching $2 million annually. But had the ministry crossed a line? The grounding of the private jet, while potentially a cost-cutting measure, also seemed like a tacit acknowledgement of the public perception problem. The financial storm had left its mark, raising serious questions about stewardship and transparency. But financial scrutiny wasn't the only challenge to shake the foundations of Joyce Meyer Ministries. In 2011, a chilling scandal rocked Joyce Meyer Ministries to its core, a wrongful death lawsuit stemming from a horrific crime committed by one of their own. In 2009, Christopher Coleman, the ministry's chief of security, was arrested in connection with the deaths of his wife, Sherry Coleman, and their 2 young sons. The scene was gruesome, all 3 found strangled in their beds. The revelation that the perpetrator was someone within Meyer's inner circle sent shockwaves through the ministry and beyond. After a lengthy and disturbing trial, Christopher Coleman was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 3 life sentences. The motive, prosecutors argued, was Coleman's desire to leave his wife for another woman and his fear that exposure of his affair would cost him his job at Joyce Meyer Ministries. But the fallout for the ministry was far from over. Sherry Coleman's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Joyce Meyer Ministries. The lawsuit alleged negligence, claiming that Meyer, as a counselor, should have recognized warning signs in threatening letters Coleman had sent to his own family, letters designed to deflect suspicion from himself. While a circuit judge ultimately dismissed the lawsuit in 2013, the damage was done. Internally, the Coleman tragedy sparked deep introspection. Employees were reportedly stunned that such darkness could emanate from someone in a position of trust within the ministry. Trust was eroded, and the organization was forced to confront uncomfortable questions about its hiring practices and internal culture. In response, Joyce Meyer Ministries implemented stricter employee screening procedures, including background checks and psychological evaluations. Leadership emphasized transparency and accountability, aiming to rebuild trust and prevent future vulnerabilities. The shadow of Coleman lingered, a stark reminder of the human fallibility that can exist even within the most outwardly devout organizations. And the scrutiny wasn't just external. Internal dynamics within the Meyer family were also coming under the microscope. Family is central to Joyce Meyer Ministries in more ways than one. Her husband, Dave Meyer, serves as the ministry's vice president, a role he's held for nearly 3 decades. Her youngest son, Daniel Meyer, is the CEO of U.S. operations. Another son, David Meyer, heads up Hand of Hope, the ministry's mission arm, and her other children also hold significant positions within the organization. On the surface, this family-centric structure might seem like a strength, fostering unity and shared vision. And indeed, the deep trust and long-term commitment that family brings can be invaluable. However, this close-knit family dynamic has also become a source of controversy and criticism. Accusations of nepotism have plagued the ministry, with critics arguing that family members are given preferential treatment and high-ranking positions based on family ties rather than merit. Decisions about promotions, responsibilities, and strategic direction all run through the family filter, blurring the lines between ministry obligations and family dynamics. As Joyce Meyer has gradually stepped back from her demanding public schedule, her son Daniel has taken on a more prominent leadership role, a transition that has further highlighted the complexities of succession in a family-led organization. Balancing his leadership responsibilities with family harmony is a delicate act. The financial aspects of family involvement have also drawn fire. Critics point to the significant salaries and benefits enjoyed by Meyer family members, questioning whether they are benefiting excessively from ministry donations. The lack of transparency surrounding the inner workings of the ministry, often attributed to its family-run nature, only fuels these concerns. Is the family-first approach a source of strength and stability, or a potential vulnerability that could undermine the ministry's long-term health and public trust? The debate continues. But beyond family dynamics and financial scrutiny, Joyce Meyer's core theological message itself has faced significant evolution and reevaluation. Joyce Meyer once stood firmly within the camp of prosperity gospel preachers, a theological viewpoint that has become increasingly controversial. For years, her sermons and books echoed the core tenets of this belief system: that God desires believers to be wealthy and healthy, and that faith is the key to unlocking material blessings. She famously taught that hardships were often the result of a lack of faith, a message that resonated with many but also drew sharp criticism. Critics accused her of looking down on the poor and vulnerable, blaming them for their own struggles. The prosperity gospel in general has been widely condemned as predatory and manipulative, accused of convincing people to give heavily to ministries with the promise of earthly rewards, often while neglecting the true gospel message of sacrifice and service. But then, in a surprising turn, Joyce Meyer appeared to publicly recant aspects of her prosperity gospel teachings. In a video clip that went viral, she confessed that her beliefs had become out of balance. "Every time somebody had a problem," she admitted, "I believed it was because they didn't have enough faith. If you got sick, you didn't have enough faith. If your child died, you didn't have enough faith. Well, that's not right." She emphasized that trouble is an unavoidable part of life, even for the faithful, quoting Jesus' words, "In the world you will have tribulation." This public admission and apparent shift in theology shocked many. Was it a genuine change of heart? A strategic move to distance herself from the increasingly criticized prosperity gospel movement, or simply a recalibration of her message in response to years of criticism? Whatever the motivation, Joyce Meyer's evolving theology adds another layer of complexity to the narrative surrounding her ministry. And alongside these theological shifts, personal health challenges have also brought a new dimension to the public perception of Joyce Meyer. In recent years, Joyce Meyer's health has become a recurring topic of public concern. At 80 years old, she has faced a series of health challenges that have brought a more human and vulnerable side to her often larger-than-life persona. She recently shared on social media about a fall that resulted in a broken ankle and back surgery, complications from which left her confined to a wheelchair for a month. While she expressed gratitude for her recovery, the public saw glimpses of her vulnerability. In 2019, viewers had also noticed a visible tremor during one of her appearances, sparking online discussions and speculation about her physical well-being. While Meyer has not directly addressed these speculations, they fueled conversations about her ability to maintain the rigorous demands of ministry leadership. Balancing public expectations with personal health struggles is a challenge for anyone in the public eye, and perhaps especially so for a faith leader who often projects an image of strength and unwavering faith. Joyce Meyer herself has long taught about overcoming emotional struggles, dealing with anxiety, and finding healing from past trauma. Her sermons often focus on emotional resilience and holding on to faith in the face of adversity. Yet, the recent health concerns have perhaps highlighted the very human cost of decades in ministry and the pressures of maintaining a global empire. Her openness about her health challenges, while concerning to her followers, also presented a different kind of vulnerability, one that might resonate with those facing their own personal struggles. But as Joyce Meyer navigates these personal and ministry challenges, the biggest question remains: what is the future of her empire? From humble beginnings to global influence, Joyce Meyer has built a Christian empire that has touched millions of lives. But that empire is now facing a barrage of challenges: financial scrutiny, internal scandals, questions of nepotism, evolving theology, and personal health concerns. The whispers of trouble have grown into a chorus of questions. Will Joyce Meyer Ministries weather these storms? Can it adapt and evolve in an age of increasing transparency and accountability? Will the empire endure, or are these signs of a deeper shift, a potential decline in influence? The answers, like faith itself, are complex and uncertain. What do you think is the future of Joyce Meyer Ministries? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.